All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oops, sorry. Thank you for joining us this evening for the special called Planning Commission meeting, regular meeting, I should say. So the first thing, we'll have a call to order, excuse me, and we'll just go through the list. Commissioner Cheryl Davis.
Present.
Commissioner Jeanette Hardy. I think she's not here. Commissioner Robin Meyer.
Present.
Commissioner Andres Miller, not present. Commissioner Dante Philpott, that's me. Commissioner Carl Valenzuela.
Present.
And Commissioner Venice Walker seems to be not present, but we do have enough to make to meet quorum. So we are good with that. So we'll move right along to number 3 on the agenda, which is approval of previous meeting minutes. So I think we all should have received the email, which it will have April and May, the meeting minutes. So I will give any of the commissioners any opportunity to raise questions, concerns, issues with regards to either of the minutes. I don't know if we want to do one at a time or if we just want to leave it open for discussion for either the minutes, but I'll leave the floor open for any commissioners to start.
Mr. Wheeler, I had sent some very minor edits to both sets of minutes, and I wanted to confirm that you'd received those.
Yes, ma'am, I did receive those. I can make those edits later tonight. I would encourage the Planning Commission to approve the minutes subject to the additions or corrections made by Vice Chair, which staff will go ahead and create. However, the last meeting's minutes, June minutes, I'm still working on those. I got bogged down during discussion regarding the elevation, so I want to make sure I get that correct before I send those out for review. Perfect.
And just a quick question, just a point of clarification. Vice Chair Myers, she said she sent a response regarding, what was it, the May meeting minutes? Or both?
Both.
Okay. So do those edits, do those need to be discussed here, or can we leave it as?
No, you can leave it as is, because
Okay.
I review them again, minor edits of just making sure I correct in grammatical issues and so forth.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Meyer?
Yeah.
The floor is still open, so I'm not stepping on anybody's toes.
I'm good.
I have no subjects to bring up.
Okay. Excuse me.
Well, I'd be happy to offer a motion. Perhaps it'd be easiest to do one at a time to approve the minutes of our April 1st meeting, as with the corrections provided by email.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the April meeting minutes with the amendments that have been sent to Mr. Wheeler. So we have the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Davis. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. So that's for the April minutes. And if you want to go for the May minutes?
I move that we approve the May minutes with the corrections provided by email.
All right, so we have a motion. Can you hear me?
I second.
Hold on just a second. I'm checking my mic. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the May minutes with the amendments or edits that were submitted to Mr. Wheeler. Do we have a second? We have a second for Mr. Wheeler. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Second from Commissioner Valenzuela. Sorry about that. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. So we have the May minutes have been approved with edits. So that takes us from number 3 to number 4 on the agenda for any unfinished business. Mr. Wheeler, did we have any unfinished business from any prior meetings?
No, sir, no unfinished business.
Okay. Well, with no unfinished business, then we can move to number 5 on the agenda for new business. Mr. Wheeler?
Yes, sir. So before I start to begin, I wanted to make a note as far as items A and B on the new business. Legal has come to staff and say what is going to be presented today is going to be drastically different than what's been presented to council. So therefore, they ask that we defer the items A and B until those items have been sent to staff to review and then submitted to you for your consideration. That is chapter, and I can read it out loud into the record as well. We're talking about item A, an ordinance creating Article 5, subdivisions under Chapter 8, building and construction of the City of Mableton Code of Ordinance. And then B, item B, an ordinance updating Chapter 11, environment and natural resources of the City of Mableton Code of Ordinances.
Okay, and you said it's being legal is recommending that those items be delayed until for further review?
Until the next
meeting in August.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
sir. Yep. So we can re-present it to you again, and then we can have another public hearing to discuss the specifics of those ordinances, and then answer any questions that you may have as well.
Okay, do we need to make a motion to,
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, just be a motion
Yep.
to defer items A and B.
Okay.
to the next planning commission meeting.
okay, then I'll make a motion to defer items 5A and 5B to the next PC meeting, which will be in August, for further review. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Davis. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, hold on just a second. Let's stop there. Did you have any questions or comments regarding?
I did.
Okay, let's go back then.
Since some of us, if not all of us, have, since some, if not all of us, have reviewed these documents that are quite lengthy, is there any value in our providing our thoughts to you? I understand that you're recommending that we not take up the time of a public hearing tonight, but should we communicate in some other fashion? Or are we expecting to see a completely different document so those comments would not be valuable?
From what I've been told, you're going to see a substantially different document than you have tonight. And so I think it'd be probably better to hold any comments, anything, until you receive that document. Because your questions may be the exact same questions you have with the new document, but your questions that you have right now may not be even germane to what's being presented to you at the next meeting. So I would say hold those questions until you receive the document.
Okay.
Unless the legal wants to add anything else to that.
That's the general idea, because what I believe is going to happen is it's going to be substantially different, so we want to have that.
Can you go to the microphone,
hearing
please,
at that
sir? The public can't hear you. Can you go to the microphone, please?
Come to the podium, sir.
Yeah, essentially what Mr. Wheeler said is correct. It's just, it's probably going to be something very different than what you're seeing today. So your questions might change. It just seems like it's better use of your time and the public's time to see the document that's going to be most likely to be presented to mayor and council.
Okay.
Is that correct? So that's a reason for a recommendation for deferral.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So anything else, Mr. Wheeler?
No, sir, that is all.
Okay, so now we will come back and I will make a motion to defer items 5A and 5B to the next Planning Commission meeting in August, once legal is drafted and presented to the PC for further review. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, second from Commissioner Davis. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes have it. So items 5A and 5B have been deferred. We move on to 5C. Mr. Wheeler?
Yes, the only item for you to consideration this evening is the ordinance updating Chapter 7, taxes, fees, and assessments of the City of Code of Ordinances, regulations, occupation, taxes, taxation, business licensure, and for other lawful purposes of the Mableton Code. Specifically, these are for your regulatory licenses that the city has to consider. We have our business license manager, Ms. Maya Edmonds, for presentation this evening.
Okay.
Evening, Commissioners. Thank you. As mentioned, this is our Chapter 7 updates that will be updating the special regulatory sections of this ordinance. And this is going to be brought before you to review the zoning restrictions and regulations that are included in that. I'm happy to do a brief overview, or we can jump into questions if you have any. I'm sure you have that ordinance for review, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer any.
So I'll leave it up to the planning commissioners if we feel like an overview is best suited, or if we just want to jump right into Q&A? Because I know there's several questions, so I don't know how the planning commissioners feel.
I'd appreciate an overview if you could just go over it briefly.
Sure.
Thank you.
That's no problem. It'll be very brief. So the purpose of this ordinance is to establish the framework for our licensing that are high risk or going to be more regulated. This supplements the business licensing with additional oversight. So essentially, it sets us up to be able to regulate more closely these high-risk businesses. The types of licenses and permits that we'll be issuing, you'll see mobile vending permits, you'll see pawnbrokers, you'll see massage and spa health spas, you'll see adult entertainment, door-to-door salesmen, peddlers, and short-term rentals. The land use part of this is to help regulate the licenses subject to those zoning compliances. So as we've already adopted our permitted use table, those regulations are going to be fitted to these license types. The applicant must obtain a zoning verification approval prior to the issuance of any licenses, and the non-conforming uses or locations may be denied or restricted. Of course, we mentioned the property must conform with the currently adopted permitted use table, and those buffer requirements and special conditions would also apply. The planning staff would be consulted for site-specific review, so if there's any new licenses that will have very specific detailed review, they will consult with planning staff, and if there are any conditional uses, they will come before the planning commission at that time. Of course, the applicants are required to submit site plans of the business or the business location, and any applicable permits or exceptions. Any grounds for denial of these licenses would include if the use is prohibited in a zoning district, the location fails the distance or buffer requirements, and if the building does not meet occupancy requirements. These appeals may be heard by the city council as well. And the role that you guys would play in all of this is helping to input or provide your input on the permitted uses and the zoning alignment, and advise on these buffers and standards and as the land use impacts. And also, of course, coordinating with our zoning staff as we make these decisions. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, there's going to be several questions. Any planning commissioner can definitely jump in. So I guess the first question that I ask is section 7.7.15 amusement machines. So the question that I have for that one, if you want me to read it out, I can, or
I have it. What was the section again?
7.7.15
Okay.
amusement machines. And so I guess my question is more clarification. So when I read it, I'm trying to understand if this means that business owners can have more than 9, I guess, amusement or slot machines or whatever you want to refer to it in their place of business. Is that how am I understanding it correctly?
Sorry, let me read through it.
They're saying they're authorized to exceed the limitation of 9 such machines as otherwise provided in OCGA 48-17.
Right. So what that is insinuating is that the state law restricts them to 9, but typical local standards may allow for more, and that's what we are permitting in those uses.
Do we have a max? It just says more than 9, but is there a max?
We have not provided a max.
Okay. Is it possible to put a cap on it?
Yeah, that's something that we can definitely add as comment to be considered for changes.
Okay. And again, the floor is open to any PC to jump in. And if you
For section 7.715.
Yes, correct.
On that section related to.
Turn your mic on.
On that section related to amusement activities, I was curious as to the rationale for, in 7.7.1, what is the rationale for disallowing employment of ex-felons if their sentences have been completed?
A lot of this is standard with just local regulations. We like to, because it is a regulated license, we try to be a little bit more restrictive on who we issue these licenses to. That's the rationale behind it. Of course, these can be updated, changed per, your remarks, or if City Council has additional changes they'd like to add.
Well, I can certainly understand, or if it were the case that this were the owner of the business, that this were the applicant. But this section actually disallows the employment of an ex-felon. And I think it's important that people who have served their time and paid their debt to society be able to find employment again. And so I'd appreciate reconsideration of that section.
So I will add that as another point to be considered for changes.
On a more general note, I know several of the ordinances that the city has adopted have been in large part duplicative of Cobb County's existing ordinances. Is that a similar situation here, or like the required buffers and things like that? We're not going to change things overnight where they're a certain distance from a church or a certain distance from a school, those kind of things?
That's correct. This is largely, substantially what you would have seen in Cobb County. And those are also, a lot of them are state regulated, so those buffers won't change.
In 7.7 I can't figure out if I'm getting the right number of sevens. 777.4.
You said 777?
.4.
Okay.
The phrase "good moral character" is used, and that's found in another section as well. Does that have a legal meaning that your staff can determine, or is there an objective test, I guess I would say, of good moral character, or is that a subjective judgment that we're asking you to make?
So with this, with the administrative approval, there is not an objective test that we use for that, but we do advertise and we allow the public to submit their concerns if they see that an applicant has applied for a license. And so those are things that we would take into consideration if there are concerns in the community that may not be on a background check, but just concerns that we would take in consideration before the council.
I guess I think that that's another area in which I'd ask you to rethink. It seems to be the kind of thing that, rumor and innuendo could dramatically influence someone's economic future without an opportunity for, they would have to appeal a denial in order to overcome what might not be more than rumor and innuendo. And then on 7.7.8, I'll be glad to be out of this section.
Hold on, wait. I'm trying to, 7.7, goodness gracious. Permitted zoning districts?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have the ordinance in front of me. I was expecting to have our computers, but right. I believe that this section says something about that these businesses can be in zoning categories that are for business purposes, but it doesn't get any more specific than that. And my concern is that not all business zoning categories would be appropriate for a business like this. For example, if this was in the middle of a shopping center, fine. But if it's in an office that's adjacent to a single-family neighborhood, then not so fine.
Yes, and Mr. Wheeler may be able to speak a little bit better to that, but I do know that it is referring to the amusement activity. So when they look at the permitted use table, they're looking for that activity. If that, am I?
Yes, Ms. Evans is correct. That's, when they create this, where they're highlighting this, this is already taking into consideration of what type of zoning district this would be most suitable in. And so it wouldn't be allowed in like a residential area. It has to be in a very defined area and so forth, where to accommodate for these type of regulations.
Right, I understand that it can't be in a residential area, because you've already said that. But rather than just say that it has to be in a zoning category for business, in a property that's zoned for business purposes, which is pretty broad, maybe it would be better to say that it has to be in a zoning category that the zoning ordinance allows it to be in. Because it sounds like that's the actual operation of this section. You're going to look at the zoning ordinance and see, you know, are amusement arcades allowed in NRC, but not in LRC.
She's 7714.
Proper zoning, yeah.
There you go.
So, our zoning attorney just referenced section 7714, referring to proper zoning required. And it states, no regulated business activity or enterprise regulated, permitted, allowed, or licensed under this chapter shall be allowed in any area or location of the city for which such activity or enterprise is not permitted use under the Mableton zoning code and/or other applicable ordinances and laws.
Right. So then you wouldn't need this verbiage at all, which is much broader. So that's my concern, is that you've got some verbiage in here that is pretty broad, and I don't know why you would, I don't think there's a good reason to leave it when it could be more specific, but I won't belabor the point. That's all I had on amusements.
So I do have a question for you. Section 7.7.3.3, conduct and requirements, item B. It looks, when I read it, it reads as if, let's just say food trucks, they can only operate at food vendor events or at private events not accessible or open to the public. When I read that, it sounds like it's kind of, it's putting a huge limitation on food truck vendors. And as you know, food truck vendors have become a bit more popular in, I want to say, the last 5-10 years or what have you. So to say that they can only operate at sanctioned events or on private events, that's kind of limiting. Hopefully I'm misinterpreting that, but when I read it, it reads as if that's the only time that a food truck vendor would be able to operate in the city. And I would hope that that would not be the case.
One second.
And naturally, we wouldn't want food truck vendors just all up and down Mableton Parkway, but I mean, you know, there has to be limitations, but also I think there has to be a bit of a freedom or leeway to allow them to be able to operate.
Right, I just wanted to make sure, I just read over it again briefly here, but the understanding has been typically that this section would be referring to the food vending events, and you have the other sections that are referring to other instances where those mobile vending vendors are able to be established, so they're setting those requirements. So if they were at another public property or at the request or invitation of a business owner or any other instance, you can see where these requirements are outlining their conduct and requirements to have that license issued.
So just to ask, I guess, a more general question, would this prohibit a food truck vendor from doing something like a pop-up event?
So
Where, like, let's say, for example, and I'm just using this as an example. So let's say in the parking lot right here where DD's and all that stuff is, and the food truck vendor, they pop up there and say, hey, they send out a text message or email or whatever and say, hey, I'm going to be here, come check me out, yada, yada, yada. When I read it, it sounds like that's something that they couldn't do.
Gotcha. No, that actually, it just requires, if you look in the other sections, it requires that they have like prior approval, will have written approval from the property owner. So they are required to obtain the mobile vending permit prior to the pop-up, but it doesn't restrict them from having those pop-up events. So they have to just have those sections of the city that they will be operating reviewed and approved included with their permit. So when we review their application, we're looking at where they're wanting to set up, and we're approving that permit based on those properties. We're looking at zoning. We're looking at the property owner's approval. So when they do those events, they have a permit to be there.
Gotcha. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, and,
Turn your microphone on.
okay, in section 7.7.3.2 in D, it says, a mobile food vendor operating on a city or other public property at the invitation or request of one of several of the authorized individuals specified in section 7.7.3.D, number D, shall not be required to obtain a business license hereunder for such city or public entity sponsored event, but must comply with all other requirements of this subdivision too. So when I looked at the D of 7.7.3.3, I was still kind of unclear. And do you want me to read that, or you want to take a look at it and give feedback on it?
Sure. So there are instances where the city may, like public property owned by the city or the county, may allow mobile vending, and those are going to be different requirements for like a non-event, if you will. So when the mobile vending is operating outside of an event on public property, when it's operating on private property, those are going to be different restrictions from public property and those events that are put on by the city or the county or whoever it may be.
Okay.
And I know it's pretty lengthy chapters or sections here. I don't want to take up too much time, but I just want to clarify. I don't know if we're looking at the public or if it's outlined separately here, but I do want to clarify that there are two distinctions there.
Okay. I have to reread that then. Okay. Thank you.
So I do have another question for you. Let me know when you're ready.
Yes, sir.
So section 7.7.10.4, record of treatment. This is in relation to health spas.
1 second to get there. 7.7.
7.7.10.4. So when I read that section, it's basically speaking to maintaining of records, and the records, I think it said something to the effect of, will the records be shared with law enforcement? Because my question was, what is the purpose of having that stored outside of having like a customer database or something like that? But it seems as if it needs to be stored there for inspection by either the city or law enforcement. The city or law enforcement.
And that is correct. So the customer database does constitute as the records that they could have. We just want the intent behind this is to make sure that we're not regulating the business practices. So a lot of times with health spas, you'll see where they won't disclose who was there. Sometimes they're underage. Sometimes these are things that we've had issues with health spas, especially in the state of Georgia. And so this is one effort to be able to track who has been in, when, and age requirements are met. And that's something that code enforcement or the police department would have access to if they did request it. Okay.
And in the very next section, 7.7.10.5, hours and place, it mentioned that basically the hours of operation would be 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And my question would be, could that be changed? That seems like a pretty broad window. I don't know if anyone gets massages at 6 a.m. I don't, but maybe somebody does. I don't know. But maybe change that to like 7 or 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. I don't know if many health spas, we'll call it health spas, that are doing anything past 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Maybe they are. I don't know.
I would definitely add the recommendation. Could you provide a specific time frame you'd like recommended?
Excuse me. So I would say between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 p.m.
8 and 9. Okay. Any other questions or comments, recommendations?
Any other questions from any other PCs?
I do. I have some more. I don't want to hog the mic. In 7.7.5.1, which I'm going to try to find here.
You said 7.7.5.
7.5.1.
All right, hold on.
Okay, so this is the definition section for
Yeah.
vending.
Yep.
And there's a definition of public property vending and public space and public property vending. And they both reference property owned by the city.
So we have the public property and public space, and then there's private property vending. Are we referring to?
No, we're not talking about the private one. There are two definitions that start with public. Public property and public space, and then public property vending. Right after, there's private property vending, then there's public property and public space, and
Gotcha.
public property vending.
Gotcha. So the public property and public space is giving us a definition for when referring to public property. So it tells you what that is including. And then the public property vending is specifically dealing with the vending activity authorized by the city.
Right. And the definitions, as they relate to property, reference property owned by the city. And I wonder if this should be broadened to include property rented by the city. Because, for example, the city doesn't own the Mableton Town Square. And that's owned by the county. The city might want to do an event at the Mabel House complex, which is also not owned by the county. It's owned by, it's in private hands, but leased to a county authority.
I will make a note of that. I think that can be addressed to be better defined. We've had other sections of our ordinances and business license that have better defined that. I think we can get a better definition.
Because I think you're trying to get to places that the city holds events.
Right, that are public property or operate as public property for the.
Right, but the city doesn't own that
Right, and
property.
the city doesn't own any property at this moment. So.
Well, some.
Oh, but-
Okay.
Planning Commissioners, I kind of we're having a great discussion, but we are having a public hearing, so we have to open it up for public discussion if anybody wants to speak in favor of it or in opposition of it. So just want to remind you of that.
Just a point of clarification, do we need to do that for each section or subsection that we
No,
discuss, or just in general?
Just in general.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
And can we return to this conversation after the public hearing?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. So at this point, we will open it up for a public hearing. Do we want to do the 10 minutes as normal?
Yes, sir. 10 minutes for and 10 minutes
Okay.
in opposition.
Okay, so we'll open up first for 10 minutes for anyone to speak in support of the ordinance for Chapter 7. And that's to be shared amongst the public, whether that's one person or 99 people. So do we have anyone that wants to speak in support of? If you do, please make your way to the podium. Okay, doesn't look like we have anyone that wants to speak in support of. Do we have anyone that wants to speak in opposition to this ordinance? If so, make your way to the podium and you'll have 10 minutes. And it can be one person or it can be 99 people, however you want to share it.
I just want to be cognizant, if there are people who do want to speak, please do not use the entire 10 minutes. Please allow other people to speak. I just want to put that on the record, so.
Okay. So my name is Sam Corbeth. I live on 4303 Anderson Ridge Drive. And thank you for that proviso. This definitely won't take that long. I just found kind of a little oddity with the numbering in the document, and hence just for a correction. It goes to, I believe, I was just in it. Sorry. It is section, now this may not be any fault of the current preparers of the document. I just think it was probably just some oversight. It is 7 point, is it 11? One sec, guys. I was literally scrolling through all of this and I lost my space. Let's see. It is 7, 15. It is, I'm pretty sure it's section 7.7.11. Which covers, gosh. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get through here, but the scrolling is just too long. Let's see. Definitions. Oh, here we go. So, there is, it looks like it's the section covering, well, actually it's 7.6.11-1, Division 11, covering sexually oriented businesses, and the numbering doesn't match with the rest of the document. I've noticed there's a jump, and I'm wondering, did this get shoehorned into the document in some way? If y'all could take a look over it, but I did notice there was like a little slight jump, and I don't know if there may be some reason to cause that there may be something further wrong with that section. I haven't had a chance to look over it, but I did notice that as I was kind of scrolling down.
You're correct. The first one should be 7.7.
It's public comment. It's just for them.
Okay, but thank you.
Time left is 7 minutes and 30 seconds.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Brock, and I live at 156 Matson Run here in Mableton. My public comment in opposition was with regard to section 7.7.15, with regard to the amusement machines. It said that businesses may exceed 9 machines, but the state restricts it to 9. So I was curious as to whether or not there's a permissive language in the state statute that allows the city to go above it. The other piece was 7.7.1 with regard to convicted felon employment. I do think that the disallowing felons to have employment is a little bit, I think it should be reconsidered, given the fact that, especially if they've served their time. And with respect to 7.7.7.4, the lack of an objective test for good moral character, I think although it considers community input, there should be a little bit more color to that test in order to make sure we're not being ambiguous. Thank you.
I think that's everybody. So you can proceed to close the public hearing, sir.
Okay. All right, we will move to close the public hearing. Do we need to make a motion and then?
Yes, please make a motion to close the public hearing, and then you presume the questioning and discussion of the ordinance.
All right, so I'll make a motion to I will make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. All right, so public hearing has now been closed, and we will move back to our Q&A. Thank you. So again, the floor is open to any of the PCs that have any questions, comments, changes that need to be made, or clarifications, anything like that. Floor is open.
I would like to visit, there's numerous sections on this, 7.
Turn your mic on.
I'm sorry, I wasn't facing it, I
There you go.
apologize. In regards to a peller's license, starting in section 7.7.2.2, reading through it, I'm not seeing anything that speaks to, unless I'm missing it, when we have no solicitation signs. There's no solicitation signs a lot of times in front of communities and at individuals, but they still come and knock on your door anyway. So I think we should put in there, if there's a no solicitation sign for the community as well as the individual homes, that they should respect those signs.
I can definitely add that as a note. Of course, the issuing of the permit or license, we can't really, enforce it. We're just issuing the license based on the applicant's submittal, but we can potentially add that on the permit, that they would know, like, those kind of regulations are there, and they must follow that. Any other questions?
A general comment. So one of the things that was pointed out, at least in this draft, was that the verbiage in the ordinance, it specifically referenced his or he. We want to make sure that the ordinance references his or her, he or she, or their, to make sure that it's inclusive, because men and women are business owners and they seek licenses. So we want to make sure that it's not just he and him and his and so on and so forth.
Noted as well. Any other questions, remarks?
Me again, I'm afraid. The section that I want to talk about is 7.7.8.3 C. So we're talking here about pawn shop employees. And this is a situation in which the an employee has been denied a license to work in a pawn shop. And so the license, or the work permit is what it's called, the work permit is issued by the Cobb County Police Department. But if there's an appeal to the denial, okay, let me start this over. So if the Cobb County Police Department denies the work permit, then this section says that the applicant has the right to appeal, and that first they appeal to the Business License Division, and eventually the appeal would go to the city council for a decision. So my question is whether or not the city council has the ability, this might be a question for Mr. Hewling, whether the city council has the ability to handle an appeal of something that was done by the Cobb County Police Department. Clearly, when this was a Cobb County ordinance, the Board of Commissioners oversees the Cobb County Police Department, so they're further up the chain of command, shall we say. But here, it's different. It's two separate governments.
Yes, and Mr. Hewling, if you wanted to speak more directly to that, he could. I can say that as of right now, because of the current IGA with the county and the city, Cobb Police Department is our acting police department and will be conducting background checks and will issue those approval and denials, but they are on behalf of the city of Mableton.
Okay.
So that
Okay.
would allow us to, if it were to appeal to council, that they could make those decisions to overrule that.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Well, in the event that that changes, would this ordinance need to be amended?
Yes, this would need to be updated to reference our active police department at the time.
And then in 7.7.8.8, it says that all persons 25 years of age or older desiring to obtain a license need to make a written application. If you were going to be really literal about this, it would mean that if you were 24 years old, you wouldn't need to make an application. So maybe it should be reworded such that all persons desiring to obtain a license under this division must be 25 years of age or older and make a written application.
Understood. I will make that note as well.
And there's the same sort of thing under pool halls in section 7.7.9.7.
Yep. That one references persons 18 years of age or older.
Right. So if you're 17 years of age, you don't need to apply.
Yeah.
You can just open one. No, I'm being facetious, but
Legal loophole, so.
yeah. And then in Division 9, which talks about pool halls, I'd suggest that you take a look at just the terminology. Sometimes it's pool rooms, sometimes it's billiards, sometimes it's billiard halls, sometimes it's billiard tables. Maybe pick one and define it as the others. And just out of curiosity, as I read this, any place that has 3 pool tables that's open to the public is a pool hall. And that seems, I mean, I can imagine a big restaurant, for example, that might, feature games and would have 3 pool tables and would have to get a license as a pool hall. That seems too restrictive. Has there been any conversation as to whether or not, I guess I don't see pool halls as all that troublesome, so I'm surprised that they're so tightly regulated.
Yes, so again, this is taken in large part from the Cobb County regulated licenses. And so these are things that we would implement for consistency, of course, because we're taking on these licenses that have already been in place. And so there is that kind of effort to balance that consistency in the community. And as we do grow as a city, we'll make changes that will kind of update and change the environment with our regulated licenses. But the goal here was to make sure that we don't disrupt the environment too much as we implement these changes. But I do understand the concern there, and I'll make a note of that as well.
Well, I can, yeah, and I think if we were suggesting that we get more restrictive, there would be that potential for disruption. But with the, as you look around the kinds of businesses that are opening these days, there are businesses that have all kinds of games, be they cornhole or bowling or pool, and it just seems onerous to require those businesses to go through an extra licensing step just because they have 3 pool tables.
Understood.
And so I would suggest that personally, I don't understand what is so concerning about a pool hall, but if pool halls are a place that we need to worry about, then I would say we would need to be somewhere around 8 or 10 pool tables before you got to a pool hall. I don't think 3 makes a pool hall. That's my personal perspective. I don't know what the rest of the planning commission might feel. And so that's my 2 cents.
So section 7.7.11.8, items A and B. This is in reference to sexually oriented businesses. So when I read especially B, it's saying the director shall issue a written notice of intent to suspend a sexually oriented business employee license for a period not to exceed 30 days if the employee licensee has knowingly or recklessly violated this division. That 30-day suspension seems to be a slap on the wrist, especially if they knowingly violated the rules and regulations of this division. I would recommend that the suspension be steeper than 30 days. If I'm reading that correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, that's correct. I can definitely make that comment as a recommendation. How many days would you think you said? Did you say a number?
I mean, if the verbiage here says knowingly or recklessly violated, I would say minimum 90 days. I think that should be a deterrent. If an establishment such as makes it into the community, then there needs to be, I would say it should be a deterrent for them to not knowingly violate the rules.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Could you tell us a little bit about special event parking? I was having trouble imagining what this would be.
Do you have the section number? I want to make sure.
Yes, it's sections, starts with 7.7.13.
So special event parking, and I want to get to it to make sure I'm not referencing anything that's not here, but it's typically referring to if there were a special event that were held in the city of Mableton, and let's say you have a parking lot that you want to use and set up to allow patrons to park there, that would require a license. And that's what this is. So you couldn't just set up and say, hey, I'm going to take $20 to park here without a permit to do that.
Okay, and so this is for events that have 2,000 participants and where they close a public street. So it's a big undertaking. Okay.
Well, to that to that point, so I had a question about that as well. So let's just say, for example, if it's an event that doesn't draw 2,000 people, what if it's 500 people? Would this still apply? Because it seems like it might not apply.
That's a good question. And the way that it reads, I don't think that it would. We would prefer directly to what's written here. And we wouldn't issue a license or permit outside of what's.
So are you saying that a license or permit would not be issued, or are they, like, the person wouldn't even have to apply for one? Because my concern would be if there's an event, let's say it's 500 people, not 2,000, or let's just say it's 100 people. That means I can just set up and be like, yeah, you can park here, you pay me $50.
And I think the logic behind this is that the bigger the event, the more like regulated and the more financial revenue they're bringing in. And so those are going to be assessed a little bit more closely versus smaller events. That doesn't have to be the approach that the city of Mableton takes. And so I can make a recommendation for even those smaller events to require a permit. Do we want to set a number, or do we want to just establish it as any special event would require a special event permit for parking?
I lean towards any special event requiring that, because I'm thinking about it through the lens of a participant. I would hate to pay to park somewhere and they're not sanctioned to do that. Like, because when a person does that, then there's an inherent responsibility to say, okay, I paid you to park here, so I expect you to bare minimum watch my vehicle. And if there's no permit, if they haven't had to go through the permitting process, they assume no responsibility, none, any whatsoever. So they can take my $20 or $10 or $15 or $40 to park at this event, take it, walk away. Somebody does something to my car. There's no recourse other than me filing an insurance claim. So I think from that vantage point, I'm like, if you're gonna do it, then you need to have a permit, because I need to know who I can talk to in the event that something happens.
Understood. And that would redefine our special event definition here. So we'll take a look at that and see what maybe works better.
Thank you.
In the special event section, sometimes the word registration was used, that the person in charge needed to, well, like in 7.7.13.4, it says registrant responsibilities. And I think that should be applicant or permit holder, because there's a difference between registering for something and applying for something. When you apply, that means you're subject to approval. And I don't think we want to give anybody the idea that if they just sign up, they're good to go.
Noted. And permit holder is typical language, so that's something that we could definitely consider changing. Any further questions?
And I had a comment on the short-term rental. Let's see, it's section 7.7.14.1C. I've got to find this thing now. Okay. It's the definition of the short-term rental agent. And this person is supposed to be somebody who is customarily present at a location within the city for the purposes of transacting business. And I think this is pretty much the Cobb County ordinance. And I think on a county level, that makes sense. Cobb County is pretty big. But on a city level, maybe it's too restrictive. And maybe I would suggest that it be that this person is customarily present at a location within the city or within 5 miles of the city. Because they may have an office in Smyrna, but they're not in Mableton. So would that mean they can't be the agent for a property that could be 2 miles from their office? Whereas under the county ordinance, they could be, because they'd be in the county.
I will make a note of that as well.
So in that same section, or let's say Division 14 for short-term rentals, if you scroll down, it's still section 7.7.14.1, but it is, I guess, subsection E, number 2, and then that subsection C. So number 2 is saying attached to, or this is talking about applications for short-term rental certificates, and I guess the requirements. So number 2 says attached to and concurrent with short-term rental certificate application, the owner or short-term rental agent shall provide. And on C, it says a sworn statement from the applicant that any applicable homeowners association or property owners association has been notified of the application. So I think that's a little too broad. I think it should be any applicable homeowners association should have to also approve the short-term rental in their community. Because a lot of times when you go into an HOA covenant community, what's happening now is they are putting restrictive caps on short-term rentals or just on rental properties, period. So if they put a cap of 10% in their community, and let's say if that community is already at the 10% cap, this basically says that the owner or the agent can just let them know, like, hey, I'm going to put a rental here, and it reads as if the homeowners association or the property owners association has no recourse. So I would say that the homeowners association or property owners association has to approve it.
Okay, we'll make a note.
I would say staff will need to put a pin in that one because we don't really get into HOAs and covenants and so forth. Typically, we try to leave that alone because, again, those are subject to property owners and so forth. So we definitely want to put a pin and look into that one and speak to legal about that one to see how enforceable that could be. So,
And I'm only commenting on it because it's there.
Yeah. I just want to clear. We want to definitely take a look at that.
I was gonna also note, I haven't, I don't want to flip through all the pages here, but typically during the application process, of course, they would have notified the homeowners association and their neighbors. But if in that application, they are to submit, if they have a homeowners association, they would have to submit the legal documents that reference whether or not it is or isn't allowed. And that approval is also, we would not override those decisions made by the homeowners association.
Okay.
So if they disapprove, then that application would also be denied.
Okay. So I'll make the blanket statement. If that is the case, if it stays in here, then I think the verbiage should be that it has to be approved by the homeowners association, just to make sure that it's clear, because you're saying that it's in the application. Unfortunately, I haven't seen the application. I'm not saying I don't believe you, but just as a verbiage to say, hey, it's not just necessarily just notifying, like it has to be approved by your HOA or POA.
So with
if
that,
it stays.
Gotcha. So what we would be saying with that is that they would have to provide written documentation of that approval with the application.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't see the HOA covenants as a
That's what I was saying. It typically is under the application requirements that it's referenced in. Let me see if I can find it here.
Yeah. And you don't need to look now, but if it's not, if that could be added.
Absolutely.
And if Chairman Philpott's suggestion isn't feasible for that section, what concerns me is that we're relying upon the applicant's word that they've notified the homeowners association. And I think it would be more impactful if the application had to include a statement from the homeowners association saying that they had been notified.
Okay.
And I can understand that there may be times, for whatever reason, that the HOA doesn't reply. And then the applicant could say, I tried. But I think the first thing we should ask for is a statement from the homeowners association saying they've been notified.
Okay. I will make that note. Do we have any other questions or comments about this?
I have one last one.
Fine.
Under flea markets. Well, actually, I have two last ones under flea markets. I lied. In the findings, which is 7.7.15.3, it starts off by saying that the number of flea markets in the unincorporated area of the city has increased in recent years. First of all, I don't think we have any unincorporated areas in the city. Secondly, I think that was probably the case when Cobb County adopted this ordinance, but I don't think it's the case in Mableton today. And I think there are plenty of other good findings in this section, and that first part of A should be stricken. And then towards the very end, 7.7.15.11. Where it says use permit. I couldn't decide if a flea market had to have a special land use permit or a land use permit. Sometimes it says in this text, special land use permit, and sometimes it just says use permit. And so I wondered which it was.
That would be, according to Mr. Williams, a special land use permit for this.
Okay. If that's the case, then I think each time it says use permit or land use permit, we need to be sure to spell it out. And I think usually special land use permits don't have a time limitation on them, but this says that they may. So I guess I have a question that there's not any problem in our other ordinances related to special land use permits in having these have a time limitation.
Did you want to recommend that we update that for consistency?
I kind of like the idea that they have a time limitation.
So maybe look at the other issuance of special land use.
Just make sure that this is consistent with the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just to mention, you approved a special land use permit, I'm sorry.
Yes, come to the podium.
No, I was just recalling you approved a special land use permit for the soccer facility. I don't think we'd want to put a time limitation
No.
on that as an
No,
example.
right, exactly. But these flea markets do
Yeah.
have a time limitation.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that whatever is in the zoning ordinances about special land use permits doesn't preclude us from having a time limitation here.
It makes me think that maybe flea markets should be a land use permit that does have a typically has a time
Okay.
limitation on it. So let staff take a look at that and,
Okay.
and get back to you.
Just, yeah, great.
Any more? That was it? Okay. I have one last one. Whenever you're ready. I don't know if you're writing.
No, yes, sir, we can go ahead.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
So this is going back to short-term rentals. It's still, what is it? It's still 7.7.14.1, but we have to go down to section E. Where did it go? I'm sorry, section J, pardon me. Section J, subsection 1, and then subsection B, and this is the penalty section. So it's saying basically the penalties for violations with regards to short-term rentals, and there's a whole list of them. And so A says for the first violation within any 12-month period, the penalty shall be a fine of $500. Second violation within any 12-month period, the penalty shall be a fine of $750. The question that I have, or recommendation that I have, would be to make it a bit more punitive, especially if you have that many violations within a 12-month period, then it seems like it's either neglect or it's on purpose. So $750, when, like, if you think about it, if someone has a short-term rental, they're probably making $750 off of each rental, and probably more. So to them, it's like, I'll break the rules and pay the fine, whatever. So I think it should be a bit more punitive to basically grab someone's attention and say, hey, I don't want to violate or break these rules, because now it's hitting me in my pockets, and that's the language that most people understand.
Did you want to suggest a fine for those, or did you want staff to review and consider?
I would leave it for staff to review, but I think $750 is just, to me, that's, again, I'm thinking about the economics behind it. It just seems to be a slap on the wrist.
Noted.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to mention, I think there's a $1,000 cap, so I don't know what number you're thinking about.
You know what? I had 1,000 in my head, but I wasn't going to say it.
Okay. Hi, I wanted to make a recommendation for staff. Unfortunately, I can't reference which number it is right now, but it's under the billiards and the pool halls. The hours of operations will start at 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. And I know that we asked for consideration on the spas to not open as early as 6. So we may want to have some consistency around the operating hours, because I think a pool hall is sort of a relaxing, entertaining thing, almost kind of like someone may would want to go and relax early and get a massage. So you may want to be consistent in however you change those hours of operations for both.
Okay. I will make a note of that.
Yeah, it says just that one, and I think for pool rooms, it's saying hours of operation. Licensees for the operation of a billiard room shall be permitted to engage in such activities between the hours of 6 a.m. and 2 a.m. So that's what you're referencing.
And you wanted staff to review that, or you want to suggest a time?
I would think if we're going to be consistent, 8 should be for both.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any other questions, recommendations from any other PCs? Okay. Doesn't seem that we have any other recommendations. So just a point of clarification. Now that we've gone through all of our Q&A, do we recommend do we need to recommend approval or recommend referral to city council?
We probably just recommend the recommendations as discussed
Okay. Okay, perfect.
today. And probably have to be something else back from staff for some questions too.
Okay. All right, so then I will make a motion to, it's a lot. I'll make a motion to consider the ordinance chapter 7 taxes, fees, and assessments to the city code of ordinance with all of the recommendations that have been put forth by the planning commission. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second from Commissioner Meyer. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes have it. It carries. So we have no more new business. Any other questions or concerns from Mr. Wheeler, Director Hughes? Before,
I'm sorry, not a concern, but one, thank you for your patience this evening. I realize you do not have your laptops with you, and it was difficult for you to go through and look at the documents. We will make sure those are available for you next month. And second, I just wanted to announce, if you could pencil in August 9th at 8 a.m., we are having a planning commissioners training, zoning training for you at 1245 Veterans Memorial Highway. You'll get more information about that. That's where our new offices are. So you'll get more information about that. Mr. Rob Hozak with BH3, who assisted you with putting the ordinance together a year or so ago, will be leading that training. So I wanted to mention that now, ask you to put that on your calendar, and we look forward to seeing you on August 9th.
thank you. Anything else, Mr. Wheeler?
No, sir. August cases are already uploaded online.
Thank you. All right, with, I'm sorry, say that again?
It's just one.
One case, okay, thank you. All right, with that being said, I will put forth a motion to adjourn our meeting this evening. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a second from Commissioner Valenzano. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We will now consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Have a good evening.